Yeah.
What if you feel like you're more further ahead in your walk with Christ versus the guy that you're with? How do you know when to show grace or realize that it's not going to work? Okay, so let's see. Well, I'll go first. So I think this is also preference, but I'm just going to be honest from my perspective. From my perspective, when I met my husband, I was just in a place of just knowing who I was and just really in a strong place in the Lord. And for me, knowing that I was ready for a husband, I wanted a man who could lead me, be a leader in the home, be the priest of the home, be the one to really guide our home according to the Lord. And I knew that's where I was and that's what I desired. So did I meet before him men who were Christians, but I was further along? Yeah. But for me, it wasn't going to work for me. And you have to know where you are. I've seen situations, not a lot to be honest, but I've seen some situations where both were saved for real, like love the Lord, but the woman was more, like you said, and then it's like, who's to really judge who's more mature? But by the fruits, The woman was more mature in the Lord, and she sought the Lord about it, and the Lord led her to be with this man. They did things the right way. Men ended up, being a pastor. Things turned around. But that you better hear the Lord on that one. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm like, I'm not starting at a deficit, because what if he never changes? I'm a person, I'm not dating someone's potential. I'm going to date your reality. But that's me, because I have been in situations where I met a guy who was a really nice guy, but it was that situation where I was way further along than him, and he was just not there yet. Nice person, nothing wrong with that. We all have to learn and grow, but to be the leader of our home and to lead and guide me, mm-hmm. I knew that's just not, I didn't have time for that. I just wasn't at that place. And I don't think that's selfish. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. You got to be real with you, because are you going to be frustrated? And as women, sometimes we already struggle with respecting the man that we're with, and sometimes just being strong-willed and independent. So if you're already with a man who you're more spiritually sound, you feel like you're way more ahead, and then he's lagging behind, how are you really going to respect him in your home to lead and to guide you and your household and your children? Or are you going to roll up your sleeves and you're going to try to be, so to speak, the man of the house or the spiritual leader of the house? And for me, I didn't want that. And I didn't want to take the time to see if that was going to happen, because I was like, no, I want a man who is spiritually mature, who I can see the fruits of the Spirit in, who can lead, who can guide me, who can help teach me. And so the situation with the other guy, it just didn't really work out. I was trying, but deep down in my heart, I knew it just wasn't right for me. I knew we weren't equally yoked, because again, you can both be believers and still be unequally yoked. For example, there's certain things that were beliefs that were important to us that we were like, no, I gotta have somebody who's filled with the Holy Spirit. And to each his own, but that's what we knew we wanted. We're like, we want to go as high in God as we can. Like, we in this thing, like we all in. And we knew how serious it is. And some people be like, oh girl, it don't take all that. Good. It don't take all that for you. But this is how far I want to go in God. And I know that I need a husband in my life who, puts the things of God as priority. And he wants to max out in his life spiritually. So again, it's your choice. But just know that if things don't turn out the way that you desire, because maybe, you guys get in a relationship, maybe you even get married, and then you see, man, like, I'm really wanting to go after God, and he just don't feel the fire. He just ain't really going after God. And it's like, well, really, you can't be mad at him. That's how he was. Like, he wasn't as spiritually mature when you met him. So, and each situation is different. It's kind of hard to speak to that situation when I don't know all of your situation. But just for me, I'm like, I'm not starting at a deficit. And I don't think that's being judgmental. I don't think that is selfish. This is a person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You better know what you're getting yourself into. And you better have your standards and stick to them. Because the only person that's going to deal with that decision is you. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I definitely think you have to take your time. If there's somebody that you're interested in,
take your time, because he's good, girl.
Exactly. But here's the thing: if you see somebody like that, and let's just say you're in the same church, or maybe you go across town to churches or whatever, like if that person, male or female, well, if you're, if it's a male or female that you're interested in, if you're a guy, then female, if you're a lady, then male, then take time for that person that is not as on a spiritual level as you. Take your time. Watch them serve. Watch them. Give them time to grow if you're interested.
Yeah.
Don't get into relationship things when you're not even sure that you want to date that person or take it to the next level. Sometimes when you get into relationship type things and start dating and all that, then later on it's pressure to now come out of it when you don't know if that person is on the same level as you. Yeah. But if you wait to see how that person is going to be on their own, then you can make a proper decision. Yeah. Because here's the thing, like the first question we talked about, it's like, when you're single, a single person should be whole. They should be growing in God, loving God, going after the things of God. And if I can't see that growth in them when it's just them and God, then how can I trust that now we get together? Now they have a responsibility of living for God and they got me to think about. I can't think that that's going to happen automatically because I want them to grow. Yeah. So you got to kind of think about it like that. Like sit back and watch them for a season. If somebody on the job wants to promote somebody and it's a boss, they're watching their performance. They're watching them. They're taking their time before they promote them to a higher level. How much more when it's time to get married to somebody for the rest of your life, especially for the female, somebody that you're entrusting your life to, a male. You gotta watch that joker. Yeah. You gotta see what he's about. Like, don't
rush him.
How he looking and he cute and whatever. He raised his hand a couple times, praise the Lord. Okay, watch him about 100 times. You want to see.
How does he act outside of church?
How does he act outside of church? And it's the same going back the other direction. Yeah. You got to pay attention to some things. So take your time. And if that person, like I say, if that seems like that person they haven't been in it like long as you have, you've been saved for 10 years, they just got saved, or they've been saved for 2. But you're interested, okay, watch them from afar for a little while. Yeah. If you're going to hang out in groups. Go to their church event, let them come to your church event. You don't need to be hanging out alone, and you don't know if he's on the same spiritual level, because that's just going to invert things, and things going to get out of whack, and then now you're going to be wondering why things are like they are, and you can't seem to make a decision, and so take your time.
Well, that's a great point that you brought up. Take your time. I think that's great because that is true, and I didn't think it from that perspective. But especially if maybe there's a friend of the family, or you work with them, or they go to church, that's a little bit of a different situation because you still get to be around them and see their lifestyle. I was thinking more so like you just met somebody and you could tell they're not on the same page. But if they're like that where you can get to see their lifestyle from afar, God can do it. You never know. And where they develop and they grow, and then it'll be a better time, that God can present that person to you.
And for me, I knew, my wife said earlier that there were things that we wanted. And for me, it was, their choices. Yeah. And for me, I was either going to have them or I wasn't going to be married. I was trusting God if I had to wait another 5 years. I just knew how serious marriage was. Yeah. So I wasn't just going to go say, you know what? I'm 45 now. Let me just go ahead and grab somebody.
And we both had many opportunities to settle. But it was just like when you know who you are in God and like you said, what you want, you're just like, nah. And we were older too. So we've seen people, jump into relationships, jump into marriages, divorce, or stay together, but they're miserable because they settled. And, individually, thank God, we were just determined not to settle. And I think that's really important. And like you said, whether I'm waiting 5 or 10 years, I'd rather be waiting single, than now I'd rather wait that 5 years single than jump into a marriage and be 5 years miserable. So I think it is important to take your time, and it is important to trust God, hear God, and watch that other person if you're interested in somebody, and just not play games and just be upfront. So